We are back again for this week's rookie recap, a weekly feature where we go player by player through the rookies on the Kansas City Chiefs and talk about how it was that they did in this prior game, as well as on a season perspective. And finally, guys, I'm going to end this video today with something that I don't normally do on these videos, a little bit of a spiel, because I think that it is possible to look at the performance of this rookie class and be a bit disappointed, but I don't think that that is how we should feel about this rookie class. I think that there is more going on here than meets the eye. I think there is more going on here roiling beneath the surface, if you will, for this rookie class. But let's start with Xavier Worthy. He played 58 snaps in this game, and this was undoubtedly the worst game of his rookie season so far. I don't think it is indicative of how things will go moving forward, but I do think that lumps like this happen during the course of a rookie season. He had 2 targets, 0 receptions, 2 carries, negative 10 yards. Now I want to talk a little bit about one of those targets and one of those carries. So the deep ball target to Xavier Worthy, where he was out of bounds but made the catch, that's a rookie mistake. He's going to get over that. That is not going to be how things are for him. That's just a mistake he made one time. I think that if you look at the game that he played in college, he was very, very in tune with the field and where he was on it. From what I observed as he was coming out of college, he did not make those mistakes very often in college. So I think that this is one of those instances where right now the game is a little bit too big for Xavier Worthy. Had that play been made, that would have been, 40 yards, I think? Maybe a touchdown probably as well. These statistics look much different with that added to the mix. On the carry where he lost all of the yards, I think, and again, you only have the angles you have of the play. I'm not the guy on the field. I think what happened there was that he did not trust his speed to the degree that he should have. He hesitated. He tried to cut back. I don't think that was necessary. I think that if he utilized that 4.21 speed, he could have gotten around that tackle and ended up with positive yards. Now, again, guys, I'm not the one who runs the 4.21. I ran the 4.27 40-yard dash. It may have been 4.72, I don't quite remember. It may have been 7.42. I can't remember the order of the numbers, but it's not all that important. On the season, Xavier Worthy has 39 targets, and this is going to be very, very stunning in a moment when we talk about Rashee Rice last season. But 39 targets, 19 receptions, 235 yards, and 3 touchdowns. You add to that the fact that he has 9 carries for 37 yards, 2 touchdowns. That gives him, on the season, 28 total touches for 272 yards, nearly a 10-yard per touch average, and 5 touchdowns. He has done this all on 354 snaps through his rookie season. Now, we keep running into instances where Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy's rookie seasons line up stunningly similar on certain metrics through the same number of games in the season. Through this point in his rookie year, Rashee Rice had 39 targets, the exact same number of targets that has Xavier Worthy. Now, he cashed them in for 11 more receptions to get 30 compared to Xavier Worthy's 19, 315 yards compared to Xavier Worthy's 235, so you're looking at 80 yards positive on 11 more receptions. But he only had 3 touchdowns total. Xavier Worthy has 3 receiving touchdowns, the same as had Rashee Rice. But Xavier Worthy, through the dimensions that he provides in his game, adds 2 more touchdowns total to that list with 5 touchdowns total on the season. But as we have seen the injuries pile up for the Chiefs, I think that it is necessary to maybe talk about Xavier Worthy in a different light as well. We all kind of knew that Xavier Worthy, upon his coming to Kansas City, was going to be the speed guy in the Kansas City Chiefs offense eventually. I don't know that we really foresaw that happening so quickly. He is basically wide receiver too. Right now, you're running out there DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy on the field, meaning that he is lining up as the Marquez Valdes-Scantling substitute from last year's offense. A much more apt comparison, in my opinion. Marquez Valdes-Scantling had 42 targets last season, all through last season, 3 targets more than Xavier Worthy has at this point in the season. I repeat that. Marquez Valdes-Scantling had 3 more targets during the course of the entirety of last season, compared to where Xavier Worthy finds himself through just 8 games. Again, Marquez Valdes-Scantling cashed them in at a higher rate than Xavier Worthy has, 21 receptions. 21 receptions compared to the 19 receptions that Xavier Worthy has so far. Again, 315 yards for Marquez Valdes-Scantling, just like Rashee Rice, but Marquez Valdes-Scantling had 315 yards through all of last season. So, Xavier Worthy is Xavier Worthy is slightly behind where Rashee Rice is on a game-per-game average. He's not very far off where Marquez Valdes-Scantling was for his entire season. Xavier Worthy is going to be a better wide receiver than Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I think that is going to happen before the end of this season. The consistency is not yet there for Xavier Worthy. He has some drops. He has some miscues. He's fallen down a couple times and still been targeted. Those things are not going to be constants in his game. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, through the entirety of the 2023 season, had but 1 touchdown. Xavier Worthy so far has 5. Less than halfway through the year. By halftime next week, we will have the half-season statistics for Xavier Worthy. Moving on to Carson Steele. Oh, by the way, I should have pointed this out. MVS ended last year with 21 receptions. Marquez Valdes-Scantling had 2 more receptions last year than Xavier Worthy has through 8 games. This is an upgrade. Carson Steele had 14 snaps and 6 special team snaps. He had 3 carries and 9 yards on the game. That gives him 44 carries, 149 yards, and 3 receptions for 10 yards through the season. The big statistic, and the reason that I put this down there, and I think we all kind of know this, the reason we are not seeing more Carson Steele is that final statistic that I have listed for him on the page. 3 fumbles. That is what it comes down to. That's it. It's not because he's been bad. It's not because he is not effective. It's not because he can't play NFL football. Andy Reid, prioritizes ball control. The fact that he has 3 fumbles is the problem. And this is something that we have popping up time and again in this draft class. Pardon me, I apologize. Not ball control issues, but the Chiefs are having to draft at the final place in the round because what is it called? Oh yeah, win Super Bowls. When you're drafting further down in the draft, it compounds. So your first pick is 32nd, but your second pick is all the way at 64th. There will be teams who have had 3 picks by then if they have 1 trade in the middle, right? So what you're looking at when you're picking later in the rounds are players that have to work on things. Carson Steele has to work on ball security. Right now, Xavier Worthy has to work on consistency. He has to get better at catching the football. He has to get better at knowing where he is on the field. He has to get better at not falling down on routes. This holds true through the next player on this list, Kingsley Suamataia. He had 2 snaps this past game and 4 special team snaps. That gives him a grand total of 116 snaps on the season and 36 special team snaps. That next statistic there is a big deal. 3 holding calls on 116 snaps. That's where things are going bad for Kingsley Suamataia right now. The speed rush issue was a real thing as well, but if you look at Wanya Morris there, Wanya Morris had 339 snaps through his entire rookie season. We had those 3 starts late in the year for Wanya Morris and 59 special teams snaps. During the whole time he was on the field, he was called for holding twice. So that is a little more than twice a little bit less, I guess I should say, than 3 times the snaps total, but he already has 1 fewer holding call than Kingsley Suamataia has through just 116 snaps. So 116, you're looking at basically every 30 snaps, Wanya Morris has been called for a holding penalty. Oh, no, that's not right. Once every 40 snaps, pardon me. So that's basically once a game. You get 40 to 55 usually snaps per game, something like that. Moving on to the next rookie on this list, the biggest surprise, maybe besides Carson Steele, is this. Christian Roland Wallace playing 22 snaps and 15 special team snaps versus the Buccaneers. He had 6 tackles on those 22 snaps. That's a pretty good cash-in rate. He has 10 tackles, 1 interception, 1 pass breakup, and 2 quarterback hits through the season. All of that production on just 69 snaps of defense. Nice. And 109 snaps of special teams. So what you're getting here with Christian Roland Wallace, that's a lottery ticket. He was an undrafted rookie free agent. He is playing more and more as the season goes on. I think heading into the season, I personally didn't know he was going to be playing defensive snaps. I thought that he was when he made the team, I thought it would be as a special teamer. But if we go back, the very first videos I made on the UDFA class, it was a rundown video on the channel where I talked about all of the UDFA that the Chiefs signed. I mentioned Christian Roland Wallace and said he will be an NFL player this season, but I don't think it will be with the Chiefs. At the time, I thought that the Chiefs had simply too much depth at the position to end up taking a UDFA onto their roster. I was wrong. Here he has nearly 70 snaps at about the halfway season point of defense. That's a win for this defense. The fact that this team has Carson Steele and Christian Roland Wallace regularly contributing to their offensive and defensive games is a win for this team. Next on the list and penultimate in this list is Jaden Hicks. He played 9 snaps of defense and 23 snaps of special teams. He had 2 tackles and 1 tackle for loss on the game. That's a pretty good turn-in rate as well. 9 snaps, 2 tackles. On the season, he has 6 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 interception, and a pass breakup. That is a lot of action to be on for just so few snaps. Then you have Hunter Nourzad rounding out the list. No real playing time, no offensive playing time, but he is continuing to contribute special teams snaps. You have to have special teams snaps, so you may as well be running the rookie out there. 38 special teams snaps on the season. Now, this may look like a disappointing haul for the Chiefs. This may look like a draft class that was nearly wasted. It's not. I promise you it's not. The production has not quite been there for Xavier Worthy. The snaps have. He has been playing an extreme amount of football for a rookie in an Andy Reid offense. So the dependency on him to contribute statistically will arise. Through 8 games, it might be a little bit disappointing at the number of snaps, regular teams snaps, that this rookie class has played, but there are extenuating circumstances. There are reasons to add context to this. The number one reason to add context to this, the Chiefs are on a big mission this year. No one has ever won 3 consecutive Super Bowls. The Kansas City Chiefs are in the hunt for that, and they are 8-0 currently. Rookies are a liability. no matter how good they are physically, it is not the physical part that is going to make them stand out most often on the field. Standing out most often on the field for a rookie is a bad thing usually, because normally what it comes down to is a mental error that they are making because they are not a veteran in the NFL. So, being a liability, the Chiefs have strung together 8 wins. This rookie class could have played 0 snaps, and I would not consider it wasted thus far. The number 2 thing we have to talk about with this is this. The Chiefs have won consecutive Super Bowls. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean for the rookie class? What it means for the rookie class is it's difficult to imagine a team doing that, a team winning back-to-back Super Bowls, let alone 47 consecutive division championships with the Chiefs have won and 19 consecutive AFC championships, all of the different numbers that we can throw out there. It's difficult to imagine that a team could win back-to-back Super Bowls and have too terribly many holes on their roster that have to be filled immediately by a rookie. And guys, we're halfway through the season. If someone has been starting to this point, it is an immediate fill. Kingsley Suamataia nearly did that at left tackle. He did it for a couple games at left tackle. Xavier Worthy has ended up doing that through the entirety of this season for the Chiefs. Save the first couple of weeks, he didn't play terribly many snaps to my memory. We could go back and check, but there was a lack of snaps at some point for Xavier Worthy, but still he's playing an immense number of reps. You look at someone like Christian Roland Wallace stepping into that secondary and getting reps as a UDFA is absolutely mad. Here's another thing that it means. For 2 years in a row, the Kansas City Chiefs have had the 32nd overall slot. This compounds, like I said earlier, your first pick is 32, your second pick is 64, your third pick is 96th. You barely get 3 players in the top 100. When you're talking about players that are drafted later in the round, like I said earlier, these are guys that need a little bit of work to get on the field in the NFL. Otherwise, they would have gone top 10. Otherwise, they would have gone top 15. And the really wild thing to consider with this team is this. In the 2022 draft, you go back 2 drafts, 3 drafts, I guess, really. You're talking about a team that had the 30th overall pick. So 32, 32, 30th. You go back before that, and in 2021, they picked 31st overall. In 2020, again, they picked 32nd. In 2021, they picked 31st. In 2020, 32nd. In 2019, they picked 29th. In 2018, they picked 22nd. In 2017, they picked 27th. Now, you'll remember that draft because they traded up. But they had to trade up substantial amounts of capital to get into the top 15, right? The top 10. So, going back to 2016, this team was picking 28th. You go all the way back to 2015, nearly a decade before the Kansas City Chiefs, by schedule, had a top 20 pick. And in 2015, it was the 18th overall pick. And in 2015, it was Marcus Peters. Didn't play out his rookie contract with the Kansas City Chiefs. So there are a number of circumstances through this. We've been a little bit spoiled by the 2021 and 2022 rookie classes because they were so strong. Those players came out of the gates firing. Those players came out of the gates filling in holes on this roster. But because they filled in holes on this roster, there are fewer holes on the roster to be filled before the expiration of those rookie contracts. So it is getting more. So, okay. It's rare to find a player at 64th or 96th overall that are going to come in and play on an average roster. It gets even harder to find a player that's going to come in and fill in a spot for a team at 64th overall, at 96th overall, to get a player that's going to come in and make a difference for a team that's won consecutive Super Bowls. When you compound that by the fact that, for example, the Kansas City Chiefs don't need a quarterback. So instead of 22 starting positions, there's 21. The Kansas City Chiefs don't need a starting defensive tackle. Now there's 20. The Kansas City Chiefs don't need a starting tight end. Now there's 19. You go down, Nick Bolton starting at middle linebacker, Creed Humphrey starting at center, Trey Smith starting at guard. You have all of these plus players on the roster. Picking a player at 96th overall makes it, you're compounding it by, again, the players that you have starting. It becomes increasingly rare to find players to contribute in their rookie season. This is why, when you look at a team that was as good for as long as the Ravens, with Ozzie Newsome as their general manager, you look at that franchise, and you would see them when they had a Pro Bowl guard. That's a bad example because there's two guards. They would have a Pro Bowl center, for example, and they'd pick a center in the second round. That guy has 0% chance of stepping on the field as a rookie. But at that slot, 64th overall, that was the best value. So, instead of throwing away that pick on a player that has no opportunity to start at a different position, you pick the best backup player at a position where you don't need a starter. Then, that starting center's contract expires, and you can let him walk. You can let him walk because you have a groomed successor to his position. A guy that you picked in the second round and got zero value from for 2 years. Now, once your center walks, your starting center is cheaper. You get a compensatory pick for him signing a mega deal with another team. And one of the hidden factors here is that team's now having to overpay for a center, meaning they can't spend the money somewhere else. Meaning, yes, you made the team that is signing that center better, but they're doing so at the expense of other positions on the field. They're doing so at the expense of backup positions that, well, if there's anything we know in Kansas City at this point from this season, you have to have backups, right? So there are compounding factors for the reason that this Chiefs rookie class seems to, at this point, be underperforming. I don't think it is an actual underperformance. The last thing that I want to talk about here, the Chiefs have won back-to-back Super Bowls. The Chiefs have won 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls, been to 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls. You're looking at a team that is still putting 6 rookies on the field. There's 7 rounds in the draft. There are 7 scheduled picks for every team in the NFL. The Chiefs right now are squeezing productivity out of 6 rookies. 2 of them are undrafted rookie free agents, as we talked about earlier. So, when you look at this, what you're looking at is a team that is still getting maximum numbers of players on the field. The Chiefs have, for example, Ethan Driscoll, CJ Hansen have not seen the field. I don't believe they've even seen special teams snaps this season. They just have them. They have the capacity. They have, and Ethan Driscoll, so that's the 3rd UDFA on the roster. Hasn't seen the field, but it's a 3rd UDFA. The Chiefs have 4 rookie offensive linemen on the roster: CJ Hansen, Ethan Driscoll, Kingsley Suamataia, and Hunter Nourzad. This is setting them up for compounded success in the future. We all know Joe Thuney's not going to play until he's 50. We all know that there is increasing probability that Trey Smith finds another home after this season when his contract is expired. It's just the reality of the business. The Chiefs have Hunter Nourzad, CJ Hansen already at those positions that could potentially step in. They have, in my opinion, a guy in either Wanye Morris or Kingsley Suamataia who would make good offensive guards. Right now, let alone with a season to train at the position. You have Hunter Nourzad, who could be a center or a guard. You have all of these players on the roster right now. So that is my spiel on this rookie class and how it kind of seems like maybe there is not as much productivity there as we would hope, but I think that things are better than they look right now. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing that I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.